By the time this video comes out, the final episode of Pokemon with Ash as the main character will have aired in Japan, so it seems like a good time to look back on the early days and go over some of my favourite episodes from Ash's first campaign across Kanto and beyond. It's Snooty Nerds Top 10 Classic Pokemon Episodes! In Who Gets to Keep Togepi, the egg that Brock has been raising is ready to hatch when Team Rocket steals it. Meowth takes a shine to the egg and it hatches during the rescue operation. For a brief moment, the heroes and villains put aside their differences to celebrate the miracle of birth. It's almost like a nativity scene. Brock is an eternal virgin after all. Then there's a fight over custody of newborn Togepi. They decide to settle it in a tournament rather than court, since Phoenix Wright had yet to pass the bar exam. And even then he practices criminal law, not family law. It's the first time Ash and Misty have battled since episode 7, so it was satisfying to see Misty finally put her money where her mouth is, only to have Ash outsmart her. Now, although Ash ultimately wins the tournament and has legally won back a Pokemon that was rightfully his to begin with, Togepi wants to stay with Misty because she was the first person it saw. Oh, does that mean we can just say that Misty got to keep Togepi out of pity? In Electric Shock Showdown, Ash battles Lieutenant Surge for his third gym badge in a small-scale David and Goliath scenario, with Pikachu going up against its evolved form Raichu and getting the shit kicked out of it. I've always found Lieutenant Surge and his Raichu funny, probably because of the hilarious way Raichu copies Surge's gestures. Pikachu was offered a chance to evolve, but after some brief soul searching, he refuses. Team Rocket is snooping as usual, but instead of the usual blah blah blah, twerk this, twerk that, blah blah blah, superiority complex, blah blah blah, they actually decide not to interfere for once. In fact, this is one of the only times that they actually call Ash by his name instead of just twerk. To say that Pokemon is a bit formulaic is like saying that Paris had a bit of a crush on Helen of Troy. You can practically set your watch to Team Rocket hijacking the episode, so it's always a breath of fresh air when Ash has a gym battle without them interrupting. Instead, they actually want Ash and Pikachu to win, and they end up cheering them on. Mostly because if they don't win, then Team Rocket will have to face the reality that the Pikachu they're so unhealthily obsessed with isn't that special and they've just been wasting time. Seems Pikachu isn't the only one that doesn't want to grow up. Brock comes up with a brilliant strategy to beat Raichu. Realising that Raichu evolved before it could learn Quick Attack or Agility, he advises Ash and Pikachu to focus on speed, agility and stamina to wear Raichu out before winning with a knockout. So, basically it's the plot of Rocky 3. Speaking of Rocky, who doesn't love a good boxing movie? Well, the tournament for the episode revolves around is really more of a mixed martial arts thing, but the main Pokemon of the week is a boxer, so it is technically a boxing story. The Punchy Pokemon starts with a hilarious fight between Pikachu and Hitmonchan. Its trainer Anthony is laser focused on winning the P1 Grand Prix, a tournament for fighting Pokemon, and much like the title character in Rocky 5, he's not paying attention to his family, so his daughter Rebecca asks our heroes to beat her dad in the tournament and make him go home. Brock, always up for a chance to try and get his leg over, volunteers himself and Ash into the tournament with Primeape and Geodude. Meanwhile, Team Rocket also enters so that they can get something to eat. I think Team Rocket work a lot better when they have an agenda besides their Pikachu edition. So they commandeer a Hitmonlee and enter the P1 Grand Prix themselves, making this the first time they've ever succeeded in actually stealing somebody's Pokemon. Primeape has Berserker Rage, but shows how soft-hearted it really is when Ash breaks its fall. I've always found that look of concern on its face both hilarious and endearing. Primeape then goes on a winning streak, but he never does get to fight Hitmonchan. Team Rocket cheats by gluing its foot down. They go for the knockout when Rebecca idiotically tries to stop it. Luckily her father jumps in to shield her. He realises the error of his ways and they reconcile. So all that's left is for Ash and Primeape to get revenge and beat Team Rocket's Hitmonlee. Oh, like in Rocky 4 where Rocky fights Ivan Drago to avenge Apollo. Ash wins and decides to leave Primeape with Anthony to progress its P1 career. It's a satisfying conclusion to Primeape's very short-lived story arc. I've given Misty a hard time in my top 10 worst gym leaders video, but to reiterate, she only becomes unlikable due to lazy, inconsistent writing. That's why I like Tentacool and Tentacruel, because I think this episode brings out the best in Misty as a character. It's also the episode where she caught her Horsey, which is one of my favourite Pokemon. As much as she loves playing tourist, she turns down the chance to stay in a 5-star hotel because she's morally outraged at the proprietor for launching a campaign against the local Tentacool. The episode later follows the format of a kaiju film with a giant Tentacruel going on the rampage. Ash launches a counter-attack up in the air, However, it's Misty who ultimately stops Tentacle by appealing to its better nature. As I said, this scene shows the better part of Misty's character, that she is indeed capable of being kind, mature, and sincere. It was truly beauty that tamed the beast. Misty's cyrack is comparable to Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars. It's intended to be a comedic character bungling its way to a so-called humorous victory. While cyrack is nowhere near as annoying, you can usually tell right away when it's going to be one of those cyrack saves the day episodes. But one that I actually quite like was Lights Camera Quaction, where Team Rocket interrupts one of Ash's matches, only to be themselves interrupted by a hilarious, hot-headed film director, Cleavon Spielbank. Both heroes and villains audition for his latest project, which is in no way a parody of Romeo and Juliet. It's got far more in common with West Side Story. The star of the show is a high-strung Wigglytuff. She's such a diva that the only audition leader can tolerate her is the oblivious Psyduck. Team Rocket, of course, proved to be a trio of equally egotistical prima donnas, and it all comes down to a hilarious brawl at the end, with even the director and the film crew getting involved. Also, it's funny to think that making movies would later become a gameplay feature in Black and White too. Brock is desperately seeking a girlfriend. He's usually pretty annoying about it, but this time his desire to lose his virginity actually plays an important part of the plot. The heroes and villains come to a town that's getting ready to celebrate the Festival of the Maiden. They're told the history of the festival. Like the story of Hero and Leander, it involves a maiden waiting for her lover. However, her lover had been killed in the war, and she waited for him until she turned to stone. Brock and James become completely enamoured with the ghost of a maiden. But as it turns out, the ghost is actually a talking Ghastly. He was voiced by Ted Lewis, using a similar voice to the one he'd later used for Giovanni and Yamagiba Kore in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ghastly might just be the best one-shot villain in the entire series because he has such a wicked sense of humour. Also, the dance at the end is Ash and Misty's most wholesome moment together. No embarrassment, no bickering, no denying that they like each other. She asks him to dance and he accepts, no questions asked. This is what you want, right? Some semblance of Ash and Misty acting like a proper couple. Next we have March of the Executor Squad. As the episode starts, our heroes come to another festival. Ash and Brock go mariachi dancing while Misty goes around with Pikachu. She runs into Melvin, the cowardly, inept magician who convinces her to become his lovely assistant. The show is a complete disaster. Ash and Brock agree to help, only for Ash to fall victim to Execute's hypnosis. Taking full advantage, Melvin uses Ash to capture a whole forest worth of the Executor, so that he can hypnotise the audience into thinking his show is actually worth watching.
Look into my eyes, look into my eyes. The eyes, not around the eyes, don't look around the eyes, look into my eyes. You're under. In 1 hour's time, I will click my fingers and you will all believe that you have witnessed a superb hypnotic comedy show that was excellent value for money, much better than Paul McKenna and that new bloke, Darren what's his name, and you will tell all your friends. Hold the thought.
But it all goes terribly wrong, and the Executor end up hypnotising each other and go on a blind rampage. Ash sends out his Pokemon to stop them, with Charmander going beyond its limits, which inspires Melvin to help out. Then, when the day is saved, something surprising happens. Charmander gains enough experience to evolve into Charmeleon. With the show's formula as Pokemon, I honestly wasn't expecting Charmander to evolve at the end. Enjoy it while you can, Ash! Much of the Executor Squad was a big turning point for the series, but now evolved Charmeleon stopped listening to Ash and will become more of a hindrance than a help up until the middle of the Orange Islands series. Ash fights an uphill battle with Taz and his polygraph, and he sends Charizard out in desperation, only to have all of his instructions ignored. Charizard's hubris blows up in its face as he takes the full force of an ice beam. Ash spends the night doing his best to keep Charizard warm, giving the flying lizard a chance to reflect on his past behaviour. In a rather touching montage, Charizard comes to realise perhaps there are worse trainers he could have than Ash. Then there's the usual Team Rocket bullshit, ending with Charizard getting morally outraged at Ash getting knocked out. Then Taz comes back and we're treated to the best one-on-one battle of the entire second season. Charizard is back under Ash's control, and with the opening theme tune playing in the background, it shows that Ash's victory is as inevitable as the melting of an ice cube. What's in a Name? An homage to Bruce Lee's best work. Enter the Dragonite is the second episode of a two-parter in which Ash faces the Orange League champion Drake, also known as Thrift Store Lance. Ash goes blow for blow against Drake's Pokemon using actual strategies, with everything he's learned over this series coming together. Then Dragonite comes out, beating Ash's Pokemon one by one, and getting more and more one out as the battle progresses. Finally, Ash claims the victory and becomes a new champion of the Orange Islands. It was expanded upon in the Electric Tail of Pikachu manga to serve more as a grand finale to the series, but the base episode was still satisfying to watch. After losing the Indigo League, it was great to see Ash finally winning a championship, even if it was just a side season. And finally, we have one of the funniest episodes of the first season. As I said before, Team Rocket are at their best when they actually have a life outside of following Ash and Pikachu around, such as Pokemon Fashion Flash, where they open up a tacky beauty salon, and they actually end up enjoying it, despite the fact that they have no taste whatsoever. This is stealing business away from the guest character of the week, a famous breeder named Susie who has begun to lose confidence. Brock volunteers to help out, while Misty takes Cyrack to Salon Roquet, who will completely destroy her face, and she actually thinks it's an improvement. She's a sheep, she'll follow any fashion. Meowth then blows Team Rocket's cover, who take Misty hostage. Rather than another Psyduck Saves the Day episode, Psyduck actually shows common sense and goes to get Ash and Brock for help. It's a great fight scene with Vulpix joining in and completely obliterating Team Rocket. And Misty by accident. She's not having a good day in this episode. She's dressed in clown makeup, kidnapped, and burnt to a crisp not once, but twice. This episode has everything you could ask for. A well-written plot that doesn't rely on formula, plenty of slapstick and character-driven humour, and all of the main characters play a part in the story, with Brock being given Vulpix at the end. And that's why this is my favourite episode. Now let's finish up with some honourable mentions. I like to think that the evolution solution accidentally inspired Pokemon Journeys, with Ash going on a research project for Professor Oak. Also, Professor Westwood V is such a hilarious character. The Flame Pokemon-a-thon was basically wacky races with Pokemon. I'm actually surprised they didn't make a Mario Kart-style Pokemon racing game. Finally, the Island of the Giant Pokemon, in which we actually see what the Pokemon are saying with subtitles. Sort of reminds me of the Mystery Dungeon games.